Here we are in part 2 of our Republic Star Destroyer by Revell. If you didn't see part 1, go watch it now. That way you can see what's going on. Right here, these are the tops of the control tower. I'm painting these blue. These represent the windows. It's supposed to be a light blue, but I had blue angel blue, so that's what I used, and that's what this is getting. We're going to break these off with a sprue right here, and we are going to paint a little bit of detail after we finish doing these windows. There's a lot of detail in this part as well. You just see these little lines. I made a little bit of a mess. I wasn't too worried about the mess because I was just going to touch it up later, and it is a spaceship and I wanted it to look rather rough anyway. So here we go, painting this little light gray area right here. Actually, I'm sorry, that is a medium blue area. We're painting that. There's another one here, and we will paint some more of this color, do a little touch up, get it a little bit thicker there. Here we are going around the edge of that. Just make sure you get that nice and good. That way it looks pretty. We are going to continue to paint these, as you can see, since there are 2 of them. You just be careful with it. Just go around the edges and you just slowly put the paint on a little bit by little. If you want, you can even airbrush it on there. I figure doing a regular brush gives it a little bit more detail. We're going to break these off with the sprues, and then we can assemble these to our halves, which I've already done. I didn't show that. Now we're putting these onto the tower itself. They just fit right into those little pins. They've got some box ends, and here they are. Make sure they're straight. This will go inside of the model on the underside. We're going to break that off, and we are going to paint this. Lots and lots and lots and lots of detail in this section. I'm not showing you all of it, but I'm just showing you as we go along, all the little detail and some of the spaces that we're doing. These pieces right here, what I did, I would go from one end, just getting one side. Then I would come back and get the other. I found it easier to do it that way and just flipping the piece over. That way I didn't have to be neat because, as you know, if you're coming from some sides, the paint doesn't get all the way to the end. So that's what I did to get the whole thing. I would go from one side and then the other. And this is what I do because you can see how I have one whole side of that done. And now I'm coming back and doing the other with those lines that go across that whole thing. And then we just slowly paint the perpendicular lines that go across this. We have this little thing in the middle here. This also goes medium gray. Paint the whole thing, and it stops at this very line right here. Believe it or not, that line is a dip, so you only can paint the top of that, and the rest of that goes down. And this is what this looks like. Get a little bit of dark gray, and you can see that goes in the middle right there. And this will, as I said, it gets mounted to the underside of the ship. Here's some more dark gray. It goes on the inside right here. You probably won't be able to see this when it's actually mounted. This also goes on the underside. I'm not sure if it's like a bay door or what it is. It's probably something like that. So we just paint this and we do the sides of this best we can in the same dark gray color. We're going to paint the inside of this right here. This was a little bit tricky. I got my big brush. Maybe using a smaller brush might be the best way to go. You have to paint this little square here. It's got some little indentations in it. And you got to go make that T as well. We'll do that just a little bit later. Here we're just doing a little bit more of the detail. Just little squares. This model has a ton of little squares that get little detail paint on there. So I paint those kind of the same way that I would paint like an instrument panel. Just get a little bit of paint, just slowly work it on. Now this is what I was talking about. We got this cross section here. We're going to go on the inside of this all the way around the model. Gets a little bit thicker here. Just be careful with it. That's the best I can tell you to do. Here we're going along this edge as well, getting on the inside of that. I just did that very carefully. Same on this side right here. Going down the back side of this. And we will get the other side. As you see, we're just slowly working this and we take our time. I don't know, did I mention there was a lot of detail to this model? I'm pretty sure I did because this is part of it. And once this is done, we're test fitting this on the back side of the craft. That way you could just see if the holes line up properly. Then we're going to put it on in the inside. So this is the one piece. I'm showing you the back side. It actually just kind of snaps right into place there. And the same with this. Make sure your orientation is right. And you just put it in and then it pops kind of in. So this is a little bit of paint that I forgot to do earlier. Just filling some of those in. And I always make sure when I do this that I cover different angles of it because this model had a lot of different fills and cracks in here, so I want to make sure I get those. Here are some engines. We're doing those. We're going to do both sides of these engines, front and back. As I did everything else in this model, I got it from a bunch of different sides, front, top, bottom, rear, just spraying in different directions. That way I make sure everything was covered with the airbrush. Here I got a little bit of masking that I did. We're going to spray these next after we get these engines taken care of. I didn't want to get the overspray over everything, so we're just going lightly over this, and then we'll do another coat, and you see where all that masking comes in handy. That way the spray doesn't go under the rest of the model. Masking, very important. Always make sure you use it. So here we are spraying the gray areas of these flaps, I guess you could call them. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but that's what they are to me. They're just flaps. So we're spraying all these flaps. Had a little masking here. These are on the tail, and we are going to continue to spray the other sections of the tail. And like I did with everything else, I did a bunch of different angles. This is the back end of that. This is, by the way, the bottom of the model. And this gets that nice medium gray color as well. So here we go. This is the other side. We're doing that. Going to paint a nice even coat on there. Here is some more of the flaps. This is on the bottom. This is on the reverse side of the bottom of the model, and we are getting that. Peeling off some of our masking tape here, and you can see how pretty that actually looks. I'm quite proud of myself, if I do say so. Peel some more tape off. This is what it looks like. We're going to have to assemble this later on once we get to that part. These are the back fins that go inside of the engine area. Here I masked all this off. This is for the striping. The small spot in the middle there doesn't get anything. That's why I left it. Just take your time. Go along this stripe all the way across the whole model, and that will be soon completed. It took a little bit of time. This is it with all the masking pulled off. I didn't feel like showing you everything. You can kind of see how those panel lines stick out as well that I had sprayed. This right here, this is the front portion of the model and the top half. We are spraying this in insignia red, trying to match the decals that were provided. It came out okay. I just went nice and slow with this, going along the whole course of the model the whole time. I did one side, then the other, because of how I had to mask this. It had a thin line that goes right down the middle of that. So rather than mask a small thin line, I just put a big piece of masking tape, did one side, and then I will do the other. So here you see me finishing off this one side of the model. These are stripes that are on the tail end. I just did it by hand, didn't measure them, just eyeballed it. I'm happy with how it turned out. Here we are doing the other side of that right there. There are also some of these that are on the bottom of the model, and we're going to show you that a little bit later. Here we go, finishing this off. Now here is the bottom side of the model, and we are spraying the same type of insignia red color. I got a little bit of overspray dots on some of this. You'll see that on probably the finished product, and if you don't, then you don't know it's there, and that's the good thing about it. But it does add a little bit of a, what should I say is a good word? It makes the model just kind of pop out and gives it its own little signature. So here we go, we're spraying those. Right here is the middle of the bottom of the model. I didn't have to do any special masking of that, so we just spray this all the way up. We take our time. It's a nice thick stripe, and in between these you see it pops out and veers in a little bit. We're going to paint some of those black for some detail later on, and we'll show you that when the time comes. I got a little piece of masking tape here to prevent some overspray. I just slowly go over this, and we try to get this done as patiently as possible. And there we go. There's one coat of that, and then we are going to put another coat on there, and that'll really make it stick out. So right here, this is the top of the model, and this is that other half of the part that I was telling you about where it has a line that goes right down the middle. So I redid the masking, that way you can see this, and then we'll peel off that masking after we put on another coat, and it'll leave a nice line right down the middle that is engrooved into the model. So just finish that off, and you can see that line there. I got a little bit of overspray in between there, but that's nothing some touch-up paint can't take care of. Here I am peeling off everything else, and you're going to see how these details came out right there. And it looks very good. I'm pretty happy with the turnout on that. So here, whatever these things are, I guess flaps, I'm putting little hinges on them. I could assume that's what they are. I put these on, I just paint them just like I would when I'm painting an instrument panel. You know, you get a little bit of paint on your brush, then you brush that off onto a paper towel, and you just lightly go over it. Here's a different way of doing it. I painted all the tips that weren't on the gray area, and then when I reached the gray area, I slowly just pulled it all the way up. There were a lot of these. I don't remember how many there were, but this, like I said, this model was very tedious to do. It was all a lot of painting, and it took a lot of time. So this gets a lot of detail as well. These just are inlays that go into the model, and only the tops of these get painted. So you just have to slowly work your brush across this whole thing until it gets done. There are 2 of those. There are more on the other side that we have as well, and I'm just going to show you all of these, that we can see how much really went into this model and painting this. Right here is another piece that you're going to see. This goes on the back end of the model, and again, the whole top of this goes a black color and the bottom still stays gray. So just take your time, know that there's a lot of detail, and eventually you will get this thing done. Here I am painting the bottom side of that. This right here is a bay door, so we're going to go around the edges of that, go inside the middle of it. One person I saw, they actually cut this out and made a real bay door. It looked pretty cool, I could say, and they put lights on it too. So we're getting the rest of this right here, going around getting all the little details that need to make it pop, as I could say. And here is the rest of it that we are showing you right here. Now we are painting more detail. This is the nose piece, and there gets a little bit of small detail. We're going to paint these circles right here. There's 2 on the other side. We have this inlay right here that gets painted. Go on that side. That gets painted right there. And you'll see pretty soon there's small lines that are right there at the top of this, and where that semicircle is. Just the lines themselves get painted. That was kind of different to do, but I managed to pull it off. It's just like a little indentation. You just get a little bit on the brush and put it on. Here we're putting some yellow. That's supposed to represent lights, I guess, for the bay doors when they open up and things like that. So that way the little spaceships know where they're going when they're going to park their little vehicles inside of the magical Space Wizard aircraft Star Destroyer. So we just have, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these on each side, the little lights that get painted. Here's the other one. Just do the same thing, lightly dab some yellow on there because that's what I used. Just slowly get this done. Here we are. Here's one more of them. Painting on that right there. Getting the outer lights that are supposed to be painted yellow. Have 2 more left to do. There's one, and finally the last one. So all that yellow is now painted. What we're doing, we will break this off with a sprue. Here are some windows. Each one of these has some windows in various spots. So you just have to look on the instructions, figure out which windows they are. I didn't take the black paint off, I just left it because I figured no one's really going to be able to tell that there are windows there anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if you left them a gray color, you could really see the blue in them. But this is how I did it, and you could see it's just a bunch of little different windows, and I kind of had trouble seeing where they were on the directions because the directions were, everything was based on a gray scale in direction, so you have to figure out which gray was which gray and which color each gray represented. So these go along the sides. These are some of the smaller pieces, and these have lights on them as well, as you can see, for the windows. So just slowly keep putting those dots in on the blue parts for the windows, and eventually, over time, as you keep doing this, you will finally finish them all. And then after you get them, you can break them off of the sprues, and we can put them inside of the model, and we can finish the whole body detail of that. So we are almost done putting these windows in on these little strips right here. Just a couple more left, and we will be done with those. And here are the other pieces. So just like the last ones, just go along painting the little blue dots. There are 2 here, 4 here, 2 over here. Keep going. There's some more dots right there, about 4 of those. 2 big ones right here, a few more over here, and then some more right here. Now we do the other one just below it. I turned that around in case you didn't figure that out. So here we're going to finish up with these. Only a couple more little windows left. I say that really, there's probably like 10 or so. But just get used to it. Lots of windows, lots of detail, lots of painting. It gets worse, trust me. So we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Those are all done. Cut all these inlay pieces out. And as soon as we cut those out, we will prepare to stick them inside of the model. There are quite a bit of them. I can't remember exactly the proper number, but here they are. We're just about done. Here the pieces are test fitted in there. Watch part 3. Subscribe to us, that way you see those videos. Comments and likes are appreciated. See ya!